This is my 2023 Honda Ridgeline. I've had it for well over a year now, put on over 40,000 miles. So I'm just gonna go over my thoughts and feelings about the truck after owning it for a little while. It does seem like people are kind of split on this truck. They either love it and see it as the best all-around truck a guy could possibly have. What are you doing? Or they see it as just a glorified grocery getter. Mickey sure seems to like it. You wanna get in back? All right. So we're gonna start with the outside of the truck. So first of all, the tailgate does open up two different ways. You've got the normal way, which notice it doesn't have anything to assist with going down, so it's just kind of slams. I know some trucks do have the easy lift tailgate where you just lift it up easily with one hand and then it goes down slowly with the other. Back her up, buddy. But this one also, if you close it back up, there's a little lever down here. You pull that and you can open up this way, which I didn't think that I would actually use that often, but I use it all the time. Mostly for when I'm carrying heavy objects. It's nice to toss it right into the back of the truck rather than having to go over the tailgate and push it forward. So that's definitely a nice feature that I use quite often. With the tailgate, I don't know how many pounds other tailgates are rated for, but this tailgate is only rated for 300 pounds. Which is kind of nuts. Seems a little light to me. Two of my brothers were sitting on it once, and they're each about 200 pounds apiece, and I was sweating. I was just waiting for it to snap right off the truck. I had to kick them off. I told them my truck's not made for that. There's also a trunk inside of the box, which you can lock if you need to. Otherwise, there's just a little button down here. So if you slide this guy back, you can open it up there, and it's actually pretty sizable, and it does double as a cooler as well. It's got a drain plug, but I feel like most people probably just fill the trunk up with stuff that they don't want rolling around in the bed or in the cab. So if you are to use the cooler, you're just gonna have to empty out all that stuff, which I never have. Seems like kind of a pain in the butt, so I just bring a separate cooler. But it is pretty sizable. As you can see, I've got quite a bit of stuff in there. And the spare tire is also in there, just right under here, so it is under the bed part of the truck. And I have heard some people complain about the location of the spare tire and jack, saying that if you've got like gravel in your bed of your truck, that it's not realistic to be able to access the spare tire. But I also feel like if you owned a Honda Ridgeline, you're probably not carrying a bunch of gravel in your truck. It's probably not that big of a deal. Just need to shift some things around to access the trunk. And it's sure a lot easier than crawling underneath the truck. And the trunk does do a really good job with being waterproof. It's got this little seal here, which I've never had any water get into my trunk. I do still use waterproof cases. Like this is just my first aid kit, which is pretty sizable to fit in here. And I've still got a lot more room in there for all my other crap. I don't think people really appreciate how big this trunk actually is. And it's actually really, really handy to keep everything in place, because if I had a truck without this trunk, I would have all this stuff just in a tub in the box of my truck. That way it's not like rolling around and stuff, but that would take up a ton of space. So even if it was in, say, like a full-size truck, the box would probably end up being a similar size. So I think the box is actually really, really great with this trunk. So watch your toes. Moving on. As you can see, we've got a cargo light on the left and then one on the right as well. One complaint with that is it does turn on if the tailgate's opened up to the side, but if I open up straight down, they don't turn on, which maybe I'm the only person that kind of sees that as a complaint. I guess if you're just driving down the road with your tailgate down, like I don't know if people do that, but then you wouldn't want your lights on. But otherwise, when I'm opening up the tailgate, sure be nice to have the lights on. And as far as strapping things down in the truck, we've got 2 attachment points in each corner, so a total of 8. 2 just on the side here, and in the front, it's on the side and on the bottom, which it does kind of get in the way when it's on the bottom up front. You just shift your things around and make it fit, so not a big deal at all. Another thing with the bed of the truck, it does have the in-bed audio, so it's just in these sides here. on the left and the right. So it's completely waterproof, awesome for tailgating, or I use it when we're like getting our hunting gear ready or our fishing gear. Nice to blast some tunes. Just our outlet, and it is a AC 115 volt, max 150 watt, max 400 with the engine running in park. One complaint about this guy is it's outside the truck. There's not one in the cab whatsoever. So this is our only one, so obviously you can't use it while you're driving, which would kind of be handy if you need to charge like a laptop or something like that on a road trip. But this is the location of our regular outlet. Something that I also just noticed with this outlet, it is not the 3-prong, just the 2-prong. Not even sure what takes 2 prongs anymore. Not even your hair dryer. Another thing that people like is the minimal wheel well. This truck can fit a full sheet of plywood, fits perfectly right into the box. Not that I've ever done it, not a big plywood guy. I don't build anything. Yeah, but I do carry around quite a few like large Pelican cases. Nice to not have like a giant wheel well that takes up a bunch of space in the bed. More on the outside of the truck. So we've got our hitch back here, and I do have a bit of a complaint with the hitch. So what you hook your safety chain to, like this little loop here, I find that it's actually thicker on this truck than most trucks. And we use U-Hauls quite a bit moving from state to state, and I've actually found that the safety chain for those U-Hauls, like the standard clip for them, is actually too small to hook around this little loop here because the diameter, it's too thick, which I haven't found that with any other truck being an issue, which it's not a huge issue. I can just get a different clip, which I've done, and the U-Haul can clip to that. But I just thought it was interesting that this is a lot thicker than other trucks. We're hooking up our trailer lights, and the max trailer in weight for this truck is about 5,000 pounds. Max tongue weight is 600, which, like I said, I have pulled multiple U-Hauls, which they're not normally an issue. We have had one that I think it was probably like 3,500 pounds, and if you get going too fast, you can definitely feel it, and the truck starts to sway, and you kind of crap your pants a little bit. I think we had it loaded kind of poorly, thought that we were going to fit all of our stuff in, and then ended up having a bunch of heavy stuff in the back, which you're obviously not supposed to do. But we've learned from then, and I think the trailering's gone a lot smoother. So nothing on the truck. I'm bad at loading things in the trailer. My fault. In the front, we've got our LED headlights, which they are extremely bright even when you're not using the high beam. I find that I actually counted and did the math here. About 20% of the people on the highway think that you're using your high beams and brighting them, and then they get you back with the brighting, and then it goes back and forth for a little while. So they work plenty well. Let's pop the hood and check out what's underneath. Sure is beautiful. Look at all that power. Oh baby, that's quite a bit. The Ridgeline does have a 3.5 liter engine, so it's not a gigantic engine by any means, but we'll do a test drive later on, and I'll show you guys what she's got. So we've got our push button start. We've got dual climate control, always nice. We also control the back as well, and I don't think they control it. Nope, they can't control it back there themselves. So I'm in control there, but we've got our heated seats down here. And as far as the infotainment system, pretty simple. Navigation, never used it in my life. I always just use my phone, just use my Apple CarPlay. Sure, this works well. Just kind of messing around here. But I feel like it's pretty hard to beat the Apple CarPlay, so not a lot of experience with this at all. Please drive to highlighted route. Certainly doesn't look as simple as Apple CarPlay, but I couldn't tell you for sure, to be honest. Other than that, this is our truck bed audio that I was referring to earlier. We just tap that and then push on, and it'll actually shut off all the audio that's playing inside of the truck, and then it'll move it outside into the bed, which definitely cool for tailgating, or you know, before a hunt or after a hunt probably, so you're not scaring away all the animals. I'm gonna plug in my phone and I'll show you just the Apple CarPlay and what you can do with that. And with the 2023 version of this truck, you do still have to use the USB to connect to Apple CarPlay. So not quite as advanced yet. Well, actually, in the 2024 version, I think it does have wireless. But I'll connect here, and you'll see on the screen, it'll just pop up Apple CarPlay right here. So I'm sure you guys have seen Apple CarPlay before, but you just click on it here, and we've got our maps, our music, and another map thing, I guess. But the screen, you can change the sensitivity on it. I've got it on the highest sensitivity possible right now, and it normally works pretty well. So you can see there, tapping in between things. One complaint with the Apple CarPlay connection with this truck is, even though I've tried multiple cords, it keeps happening the same exact thing. But when I plug in my phone, instead of popping up with Apple CarPlay, this won't be green. My phone will show that it's charging, but the Apple CarPlay will just say inaccessible, which is super frustrating. It happens probably like 1 in 10 times, and that way I'm not able to connect my phone whatsoever. I'm able to charge it, but I'm not able to play my music or have my maps up there. So that's a little bit frustrating, and I am connecting it to the correct USB port, which has to be up front. That's the only one that'll connect to Apple CarPlay. The other USB port is in the center console, and that will not connect to the screen here. It'll only charge. So that's one flaw that I've definitely found, and it's pretty frustrating, I think. So I feel like it should work decently well. Speaking of the USB port, we've got a USB port down here, and then just the 12-volt power outlet, just for sticking like the cigarette lighter dealio in there. And as I did mention before, we don't have like the regular in-house outlet in the cab of the truck. It's only in the box of the truck, and that's also not the 3-prong outlet. So that stinks, but I just bought an adapter for the cigarette outlet, and that seems to work okay. Up here we've got our controls for the sunroof. So if we just push that back, that'll open that up. And then this button here, if you hold that down, that just moves the back window. We've got our seat control settings. This is connected to our remote. I've got remote 2 right now, so it automatically goes to remote 2 settings. We've got our window lock, locks, window buttons. This is a wireless charger here, which I actually turned off because it works so poorly. When I put it on here, which this is all you would do, it would charge for about 5 seconds, turn off, and then charge for another 5 seconds, and it would just constantly be flashing my phone on, off and on. So that was annoying, so I turned that off. And here is the console, which it's a little messy, especially full of dog hair from Miko, but we've just got that there. Nothing too crazy. We are about to take the truck on a little test drive, and I'll just run you guys through some of the controls on the steering wheel, let you know how it rides, the power, and just some cool features about the truck. And I know people aren't a big fan of the button setup here, but I don't seem to find an issue with it. Seems to work fine for me. Not super manly, but it's not a super manly truck. And with these controls, we've just got our park, got our reverse, neutral, drive, and then if you tap it again, it'll go into sport mode, super fast. Just kidding. And this is the button to change our terrain. When we push that button, we go between normal, snow, mud, sand. It does show us a little picture, which is kind of cool. Pretty neat, keep you entertained. And this last button here is the automatic start, just to turn that off. Because when you are at a stoplight and you stop for a second, push the brake in all the way, the truck will shut off, just to save on some gas. Some people seem to have a huge issue with that. I think it's fine. It's not annoying to me at all. Some people say that the starter's gonna end up going out faster. Maybe. We'll find out. I don't know yet though. I will just run through some of the steering wheel controls quick. So we've just got our volume over here, skip over here. We've got our phone, music, and then navigation. That's all on this button here. I don't even know what this button does. What does this do? It's not doing anything. Huh, I don't know. This button's obviously for phones. This is back button. This is voice command, which actually works pretty well in this truck. To the side, we've got our heated steering wheel. These arrows are just to control the screen up here. You can just go through that. It shows our tire pressure, compass, trip B, trip A, and then our oil life. Go back to there. And you can also reset that if need be. This main button, that shuts off the lane keep assist and the automatic cruise control if you don't want that on. This button is part of the lane keep assist, and when you push it, these lines pop up, and when you turn that on, it's just supposed to keep the truck in between the lines. The last thing is just the cruise control settings. We've got our set, resume, cancel, and then this button, when driving using the automatic cruise control, this actually decides how close that you're going to get to the truck or vehicle in front of you. So when you've got 4 bars up there, that means that it'll keep the vehicle in front of you farther away, but as you go down, it'll let you get closer and closer to the vehicle that's in front of you. This is just to control the mirrors, econ mode. I actually never use it because I find that it actually gets worse gas mileage than in regular mode. We've got our button to turn on the outlet in the bed, automatic windshield wipers, our cargo lights, traction control, and this is to shut off our automatic braking, which we'll get into that later. This button, which I've actually got off, that is the sensor that tells you if you're gonna like hit something or run into something, but I've found that it's pretty hyperactive and beeps all the time for no reason. And then this is just part of the lane keep assist. Down here we've got the button to open up our fuel cap, the lever to pop the hood. We're gonna take her for a little test drive here, folks. So just pushing the D button so we could drive. This truck does drive really smoothly. It's a unibody design, so it's not like most other trucks. I think that's also why people say that it's not actually a truck, more of a car with a box, but I think they're just jealous of how nicely it drives. Yeah. And the steering's great actually too. It's kind of a smaller steering wheel, it seems to be, but I love it. And also with this smaller truck, it's so much easier to park. Whether you're in a parking ramp or just a parking lot. I'm not nearly as worried about door dings as I was with my full-size truck because you can barely fit in the spaces. So it's kind of nice having a smaller vehicle. And we're just going to be hopping up on the highway here. So we'll see what kind of power this puppy really has. The truck does have plenty of power just for passing people, so I'm never worried about having enough power to get around somebody quick if I have to. And it does have the sport mode, as I mentioned, which that basically just revs it up a little bit higher. You got higher RPMs with that, which I do use that for towing, as it says that you're supposed to in the manual. As I said, it is a really smooth ride, even on the highway. And I'm in Omaha, Nebraska right now, by the way, which they're known for having horrible, horrible roads. Potholes everywhere. It's terrible. It's still riding smooth, and then it's decently quiet in here too. We've got a semi to our right, and you know, it's not bothering me, not at all. As far as different uses with this truck, I use this truck as a daily driver. I use it for all my road trips. I use it in the snow. I use it off-roading as far as a Ridgeline goes. And when I say off-road, it is a Honda Ridgeline, so I wasn't like climbing up rock walls or anything like that. I was just on a dirt path, which was full of mud, and I was hauling a U-Haul trailer at the time just because we were moving from Phoenix to Nebraska again, and it performed really well. Went through some mud. I was a little skittish about it, but the truck did great. And it's got that all-wheel drive system, so I'm not concerned about just having the front wheel drive or having to switch it into 4, because it's always using all 4. So that's pretty handy with this truck. It also does super well in the snow. I've had it in Minnesota winters and then also Colorado winters as well, and we've gone through probably like 6 inches of snow, and it performs flawlessly. With the off-roading, one thing that's a little bit frustrating with this truck is that it's got that really small ground clearance, so you're not able to go on any trails that require the high clearance. I was in Arches National Park, and we were just going trail to trail with the truck, and there was a trail that required high ground clearance, which this truck certainly does not have, so we weren't able to do that. So that was a little bit disappointing, but works for everything else. I mentioned that we'd come back to the lane keep assist and the automatic braking once we started driving, and those things actually really, really frustrate me with this truck. First of all, the lane keep assist, it like barely works. It'll move your truck just a little hair, but you'll be like way over the line. I just like casually test it out sometimes when there's not other vehicles around. But yeah, you'll just be way over the line, and it'll alert you and move the wheel just a tiny bit, but it does not keep you in the lane whatsoever. And also with that, even when I've got my hands on the steering wheel, it starts yelling at me saying I need to have my hands on the steering wheel, just because I'm not moving it enough, I guess. And with the braking of this truck, I actually find it really, really frustrating. I ended up just turning it off, because if I'm on an interstate and I'm in the left lane, so there's slower cars off to the right, if I'm just driving along, my truck will actually sense the vehicle to the right, and it'll just automatically slam on the brakes. Like I'm going 75 miles an hour using my cruise control, and then all of a sudden my truck just slams on the brakes, and it scares the hell out of you, even though there's no reason whatsoever for the truck to hit the brakes. And it'll also sense vehicles when you're on the highway that it's just a 2-lane highway, not a one-way or anything like that. But when you're on this highway, vehicles are coming at you, my truck will actually sense the vehicles coming at me and also hit the brakes. So it's just randomly hitting the brakes whenever it feels like, it seems. So that's frustrating. It's even worse when you're going around a curve, which I think that's more understandable, because if you are going around a curve, it can sense the vehicle right in front of you. So I understand that part, but the other instances I really don't. So I just turned it off, because it doesn't work very well. As far as the speakers go in the truck, I personally think they sound great. I've heard that some people complain saying they're crappy speakers, but I think they're just being kind of snobby. I think the speakers in this truck are fine. Makey doesn't mind them whatsoever, do you, buddy? Hey, we've got a Honda Ridgeline right in front of me. She's a beauty. Looks like the same year. I do use this truck as my daily driver, currently averaging, this is with the truck calculation by the way, 23.2 miles per gallon, and that's my last 1,000 miles. And I also use this truck as my road trip vehicle, as I mentioned, and I've had 4 bigger guys, like all the same size as me, in here, and we're all resting or driving comfortably, so it does perfectly well for that. Might get a little tight if you've got a 5th guy in the middle seat back there, but that's their problem. I'm probably driving, so but overall, I have found that I absolutely love this truck. It's perfect for a daily driver, take it to work, get my groceries, and it does everything that I need. I'm not like a big construction working man or anything like that, where I'm hauling around a bunch of equipment or filling up my truck bed full of rocks or anything like that. So I think for the average person that isn't in that line of work, it works perfectly fine. I don't really have a need for the full-size truck when this does everything I need. The Ridgeline certainly doesn't look as manly in a parking lot or at a red light, but personally I don't really care, so I'm perfectly fine with the truck. I really have come to love my Honda Ridgeline. I think that pretty much everybody that owns one does enjoy driving it and find that they're a lot more practical than other trucks. And the people that don't have one, you know, they kind of shy away from it because I think they enjoy looking a little bit cooler at those red lights. Or maybe they're in that line of work that they need that full-size truck. But for me and a lot of the people, the average guy, average person, they don't need all that power. They don't need the gigantic bed or the lift kit. So let me know your guys' thoughts about the truck, if you think it's the perfect all-around truck for the average guy or the glorified grocery getter. I've definitely heard that one a couple of times. Let me know if you have any questions on the truck or if you want me to do a video on anything else. Appreciate it, guys. Have a good day.